Hello everyone and welcome back to another edition of Nothing Ventured, Nothing Gained, our podcast at SC Ventures where we talk about fintech news, we talk about ventures that we build within the SC Ventures ecosystem, and anything really related to the business that we're in that enables us to rewire the DNA in banking. Today, we're going to talk about carbon markets, and specifically to address this great topic, I have the founder and CEO of Qatalyst, which is one of our joint venture with NG Factory, and Poyan Rajamand. I'm really happy to have you with us today. So maybe I'll start with a little bit of controversy, but I think everybody must be thinking the same thing, which is with the recent change in administration in the US, Trump actually saying on his inaugural speech, drill, baby, drill. And even if I go as far back as a year and a half ago, with a very damaging article from The Guardian on the quality or the legitimacy of carbon credits that were generated through platforms like Vera. Why is this still important? Why are carbon credits still a very important topic, and why we should care about it?
Well, Harold, thanks for the question. I'm the first one to admit that carbon credits are not perfect. That said, we are far behind the goals we have for 2030 and 2050.
And when you say the goals, it's the net zero goals, or the carbon reduction goals that we have. Corporates or governments have. Right?
Exactly, which means effectively we're emitting more carbon than planned. As such, although corporations should continue to reduce their carbon footprint, carbon credits are a fantastic addition to that roadmap. In order to pay someone to reduce carbon in the atmosphere.
And I think what you say is actually really really defining the core of the problem. We're actually producing more carbon than we're able to absorb or reduce, and that's the core of the problem. We're on a roadmap to try to reduce it, but it takes time and it's fairly complicated, and we can't put the world on pause. Right?
Exactly. It's very, very complicated. I think people realize how complicated it is, not only for your own company, but in your supply chain. As such, working with different technologies or paying someone to not cut down trees, to avoid emissions, or to replant trees for nature-based solution would be an extremely cost-effective way in our fight against climate change.
And that's one thing that obviously we need to be able to support, which is how do we enable people who can reduce, absorb some of these methodologies that enable us to reduce carbon? How do we enable them with the right tools so that they can even just be aware of it, I guess, right? Yeah. And I think we're this is sort of the problem statement, which is corporates need to reduce or need to sort of trade off their carbon emissions, but there's not enough people on the other side to enable that. So maybe with that, tell us a little bit about Qatalyst and what do you do?
So Qatalyst is a digital tool that bridges the gap between financiers, those who want to invest in decarbonization projects, and the projects seeking financing to perform the reforestation or implement the technology needed to extract carbon from the atmosphere. Now, at the core of it is an AI-first product for financiers to do their own due diligence of a project, order of magnitude faster and cheaper. On the other side, it helps the project developers to develop their projects faster, meaning come to revenue faster, as well as create more visibility and transparency so that it gives more confidence to the financiers.
I think what I was always very passionate about your venture was the fact that it takes literally an entire ecosystem to enable us to reach our goals, right? And you're faced with big corporates or big financiers that actually want to enable it, and at the same time, on the other side, you either have super big developers who know how to do it, but it's fairly complex, and at the same time, there's a lot of smaller developers that don't even know where to start. Yeah. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about some of these people.
Well, I mean, listen, this is a market that has some information gap, as you said. There are some very sophisticated large companies, but there are also people who actually don't understand where they should start, etc. There is a change in regulatory environment. As you mentioned, there has been questions about carbon credit, and as such, there are work to improve the standards, the auditing, the technology to create more trust in this market. And there are language barriers. Increasingly, these carbon credits are being traded internationally. As such, someone in, say, Japan is sitting looking at a project in, say, Indonesia, where all the information is in local language, the documents are in local language, etc. And these are the kind of challenges that our tool can help solve effectively.
And can you tell us a little bit about the role of AI into this?
Yeah.
Maybe the role of AI, and also what sort of tools do you provide so that you accelerate the adoption of certain standards with different parties who can be very different, like you said, or also the validity of what's happening.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit more about?
So the way we built the tool was to work very closely with the financiers, for example, with the financing teams in Standard Chartered Bank and NG, to actually find their pain points and use the right digital tool. So, for example, they need to merge the documentation given to them from a project with their internal requirement. And this is something that an AI can do. Extract information, summarize it, compare it with the requirements, and flag where there are inconsistencies. It also helps them to do projections much more effectively. It helps them to gather information or share information between the team and with external parties in a secure way, effectively creating a workflow tool that speeds up this process. So we've done the same thing with the project developers. Again, understand what is their need and deploy the right digital tools. But the broader point here is that you have increasingly need of other supplies. As you said, one company cannot solve this. So we are also collaborating with satellite imagery providers, with consultants, with auditors in this space, and making sure that the exchange of information and their work is done more efficiently.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're bringing together all these different stakeholders on one platform,
Exactly.
so that they can, enable that, that carbon credit market to become a lot more valid and a lot more secure and so forth. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit about the current state of the market and in terms of voluntary carbon markets, compliance market, specifically in Southeast Asia maybe, or in emerging markets. And where do you see the market going? And if you have a little bit of data, that would be great.
Sure. I mean, as you mentioned, voluntary market are more volatile. Again, voluntary market relied on voluntary submissions by companies to go towards net zero. So they have been volatile, and I believe they will continue to be volatile in the environment that we live. Now, compliance market is effectively countries with carbon tax, allowing you to use specific high quality credits from the voluntary market to offset your carbon tax. They are per definition less volatile and allow for better visibility for financiers and project owners. Now, in our part of the world, you see countries like Japan, Korea, Singapore becoming buyers of these credits, countries and companies wanting to reduce their carbon tax effectively. And countries like Indonesia, Cambodia, Vietnam, and other Southeast Asian countries becoming producers of these credits. So I think increasingly you will have a mesh, a network of bilateral agreement allowing for trading of these international carbon credits. Size of the market can be quite significant. The market in Southeast Asia and Asia broadly, we believe could be about $30 billion in the next decade or so.
Wow, I mean that is a decent market opportunity. Well, with that, maybe we can leave with a few facts. So, you're currently launching your MVP. I think you officially released your product launch. Was it a week ago or 2 weeks ago?
Exactly.
So it was for me very exciting because you had project developers one company called V Carbon, which is fascinating, in Papua New Guinea and things like that. And at the same time, you had validators, verifiers, VBBs, basically, that were also in the audience, financiers, etc. So for me, it was a pretty exciting event. And on the back of it, I think you're in the middle of fundraising. Most of it is secured, but I think you'll have a few more good news this week. So I think some pretty exciting thing. If you were to ask, for anything right now, what are you looking for?
So as I mentioned, this is an ecosystem play. We are having fantastic collaboration with large landowners in Indonesia, people who want to do the right thing.
And when you say large, can you tell me how large?
There is one landowner who has committed about 70,000 hectares of land, which is a similar size of Singapore, to a project. We have, as a satellite imagery providers, we have several companies coming to us and say, how can we help? How can we do this faster? So one ask is, if you are a solution provider in this space and want to engage with either the sell side, meaning product developers, or the buy side, come to us and see whether we can help each other out. The second thing is, if you are indeed a financier in this space, please go to our website, book a demo, and see whether we can help you to scale your impact.
Great. Well, I think you heard Poyan. So if you have anything that is interesting from a carbon credit perspective, feel free to reach out to us either on our LinkedIn page or directly to Poyan, and we'll be happy to see how we can work together. With that, first of all, thanks a lot, Poyan.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck on your next phase. I know you have a lot of things to deliver and a lot of great things that are about to come. And if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to us. And until the next time, thanks everyone.
Thank you.